All right. Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Christ Code. This is your host, Xander Sage Swanton. And today we have a beautiful reading for you from the book of Matthew, really diving into the original commands of Jesus, the commands to live a life in line with the highest principles of God. So if you're interested in being more of a godly man or woman, being closer to God, knowing God more deeply, and really walking the way of Jesus and living his core teaching, then we're going to dive into that teaching today. It's very short, very simple, but profound, and opens up a lot of spaciousness within the heart, lots of love in your life, and lots of connection to spirit. So thank you so much for joining today. The book today is Matthew chapter 19, verses 16 through 30. That's Matthew chapter 19, verses 16 through 30. So I'll read the passage briefly, and then we'll dive into a quick analysis. So the section is titled The Rich Young Ruler. Just then someone came up and asked him, "Teacher, what good must I do to have eternal life?" "Why do you ask me about what is good?" he said to him. "There is only one who is good. If you want to enter into life, keep the commandments." "Which ones?" he asked him. Jesus answered, "Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and love your neighbor as yourself." "I have kept all of these," the young man said. "What do I still lack?" "If you want to be perfect," Jesus told him, "go and sell your belongings and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." When the young man heard that, he went away grieving because he had many possessions. Amen, the word of the Lord. So here we see the commands from Jesus, or following the commandments that come from the Father, are really quite simple. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the core ones to start. And much of these have, these came out, so to speak, 2,000 years ago, right? So the culture was different, and a lot of these needed to be understood and needed to be reiterated so that they became common practice for people, because it was a murderous time. War was much more common. Violence was much more common. Adultery was much more common. In today's culture, there have been some changes, and it's no longer socially acceptable to do these things. And much of that is thanks to Jesus and the Christian faith and other religious traditions around the world that have purified our consciousness and helped us to realize that it's actually not in highest alignment to behave this way, and it causes great pain and suffering. So we choose not to do so. But the last two here, honor your father and your mother, and love your neighbor as yourself, these are two that I see within our generation are actually becoming less valued in many parts of the world. As we become more materialistic, as we become more individualized, as the culture of achievement and success becomes the predominant way through which recognition and social status are obtained, and therefore the perception of belonging to the tribe, as those things are dependent upon what the individual accomplishes, what the individual does, what the individual is worth, then it becomes much more understandable for somebody to distance themselves from their father and their mother, or distance themselves from their neighbor. And this is a collective psychosis that we have fallen under, a collective forgetting of the core teachings of Jesus, a collective forgetting of just how important it is to honor family, to stay close to family, to love one's family, and to really honor the mother and the father as the original gurus, the original teachers, those who were taking care of us from birth throughout life, and those who love us so deeply in an unconditional way, much as God does. And that's a living embodiment of the love of God that we have here on this planet. Now, that might not be the case for all families, but in general, that is a prevailing dynamic that exists within the family. So honoring that, honoring the love that is there with father and mother. And even if it isn't felt, we often not sometimes know that it is there. We often know that the love is profound in our best interests, that they truly have those in mind. So honoring the father and the mother is such an important one. And as we do so, we start to see ourselves through their eyes. We start to see life through their eyes. And we learn so much about ourselves, about family, about life, about love, about what it means to care for somebody or to be cared for. And these are things that ultimately purify the heart. Because the commandments are a directive, they are a teaching to help us remind us who we truly are, to remind us of our core nature, which is oneness, which is an interconnectivity with all of life, which is love. It might not be directly apparent for us that that is our true nature unless we've done a lot of meditation. So the commandments are guideposts to remind us that if we had an all-seeing eye, if we had a full depth of awareness of the truth of the true nature of all of life, this is how we would behave. We wouldn't murder, we wouldn't commit adultery, we wouldn't steal, we wouldn't bear false witness, because we know we'd be committing those sins, these grievances against ourselves. And the same is true for honoring your father and your mother. These are the people closest to us who it's going to be easiest to offer love to. In our true nature, we are offering love to everybody. But if we can't offer it in a true, deep love and honoring for our mother and our father and our mother, then we have work to do there. We have healing to do there, and we have a purification of our heart to do there. And once it is done within the family dynamic, then the love naturally overflows to the rest of our peer group, our friends, family members, our society at large. And this brings us closer and closer to our true nature of love. If there's a blockage within the family unit, if we're unable to honor the father and the mother, even though it might not be our fault, it's going to be much harder to feel safe in loving friends and family and other members of society. So the first place to look is, how is your relationship with mom and dad? Is there any repair that needs to happen there? And if so, I highly recommend doing that, coming to it with an open heart, being open to seeing how love can evolve in your life as a result of that. And even if things are great, making some time this week to check in with your parents, to share a loving moment with them, and to honor them and just remind them of how important they are in your life and how much you have deep gratitude for their involvement in your life. And the next one is similar in nature. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So here we take that love that we've been able to cultivate with our parents, and we allow that to go out to all of the beings in the world, really. So we love ourselves, and this is so crucial because we can only love another as deeply as we've loved ourselves. Even if sometimes it might seem like we can have love for another when we don't fully love ourselves, this is just an attachment pond, not true unconditional love. So first, we love ourselves deeply. And if this is something you might be struggling to do, I highly recommend checking out a practice called metta from the Buddhist tradition. It's very, very simple. You can come into a seated posture, a meditative posture, place your hand on your heart and your stomach, and just say over and over again to yourself, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be free, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be free. And this will start to rewire the pathways in your mind and start to create an energetic frequency of love for the self. And as you do this daily and love starts to pour through, the self-love starts to increase and the mind starts to understand and see that it's okay to love the self. And then this love can start to overflow to others. So it's a very simple practice I just wanted to offer here. And as we start to really love ourselves more and more, it's natural that the love overflows to others. So the key place to focus here, it's easy to bring in Catholic guilt or a Christian viewpoint of guilt. that involves thinking, oh, I need to love others more and do more for others. And the religion of Christianity has done a wonderful job of creating that expectation of service. But the real place that we need to start is with love of the self. And this is where yogic teachings, Buddhist teachings, shamanism practices, these things have put a lot more energy and attention and focus to self-love. And much of the New Age community practices can help with that. So I highly advise checking out Meta, and there's many other practices you can get involved in. If you're curious to learn more about self-love practices, jump into the comments. I'd love to see any questions you might have, and happy to provide some more insight there. So thank you so much for your time and attention today. We've dove deep into the commandments, and I hope that you're able to make space in your life to really focus on these, because this is the path. This is, if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments, is what Jesus said. So these are the simple ones. And then after that, the kind of like the graduation is that if you've completed all these commandments and you're living in them in a deep level of embodiment, now you're ready to go towards the path of the Bodhisattva, towards the path of Jesus, which is basically a renunciation from the world in selfless service for the benefit of all. Selling all of your belongings and giving to the poor, as Jesus notes. This is a very advanced teaching. Most are not ready for it. But as we move further and further along in our spiritual progression, we start to see that service to others truly is the greatest gift. It purifies our own hearts, makes us feel a sense of love, of joy, of connectedness, a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. So if you have an opportunity to make some space in your life for service, for giving back, and for making a difference in the lives of another, that is a direct recommendation of Jesus and one of the fastest ways to follow him, follow in his footsteps, and live a life closer to God. So thank you so much. May peace be with you. Many blessings. I'll see you soon. Ciao, ciao.